15th episode of Snort That Glue, where I, T-Mac, review all the new maps all the time, playable on Mythical Gaming. That's Mythical Gaming. A link in the description. So I've got a whole bunch of maps to get into this week, as well as a new segment to introduce into the weekly map review. So without any further ado, let's slide between those flame-grilled buns and get right into the thick of it. Starting with the new segment of the weekly map review, which is the update segment, where I'll briefly be talking about all the maps that received an update or got reported for being so cool. Get it? Reported. Anyways, bhop_ski_hard is the port of CSS's, or Counter-Strike Source's, bhop_ski, which was created by Ski and ported by No Name Guy. Now, some people might think that they've already been playing Ski, but in reality, the previous port was bhop_ski_legit, which is basically an easier version of the original bhop ski made to be played on legit. The biggest changes to the previous version are that on stage 7, 9, and 10 there are no longer checkpoints midway through, as you can clearly see from the footage. Also, some of the stage's layouts have reduced blocks, longer gaps, and or more challenging obstacles. It basically took the Tier 5 version of the map and turned it into the Tier 6 version that it always dreamed of becoming on CSGO. Ski is a classic map, and if you have any interest in playing hard maps, then this one is definitely one that you shouldn't miss. So good job to No Name Guy, nice to see that you're still doing a great job porting cool maps. And next up we have bhop_dude, a map created by Zacklemore, which recently got an update that compiled all the textures from the previous version. It now looks bright and very interesting, and the difference in game is honestly pretty amazing. It made the map not only more fun to run, but something that I could see myself coming back to every once in a while. So I'm going to go ahead and bump the original 5 that I gave it up to a solid 7 out of 11. I still had some of the same issues in terms of feeling claustrophobic, and sometimes being hard to see what you can and can't jump on, but it's certainly much better now, and deserves recognition for a job well done. And that brings us to the final map in the update section, which was bhop_epiphany, created by Wet, and it has now been reported and uploaded to Gamebanana by Rio_. This map has already been ported by Godzilla, however that version was never released on Gamebanana, and it has a few differences from this version. So the first being that Rio's port is much brighter, especially at some key points where it can be difficult to see what's going on in the Godzilla port. The brightness change adds a certain industrial worksite feel to the map, which is nice, though the darker port still does have some merits in that it makes the map feel like a deserted construction site. So it's kind of preference as to whether you like the map darker or lighter. The lighting change is pretty much one of the only changes, though there are a couple of rocks that are added in a few spots into Rio's port. I'm assuming to stop skips, but it could just be for visual effect. Either way, good job. And, also Lego_R&M got an update, but that was solely to add music, which means that it is time to get into the first fresh map to come out this week, even though this one technically came out last week. bhop_invld, INVLDD, was created by Comeback, and is his first ever map. Texture-wise, the map is very diverse, and sometimes it works well, but I feel like the bad slightly outweighs the good. And I feel like that's especially the case in the first stage, which has stretched brick textures and a really chaotic color scheme that kind of feels like it's all over the place. But once you get to the top of stage 2, the map's colors start to work really well together and look quite nice, continuing to be above average to average throughout the rest of the map. As for the gameplay, the map has a general sense of progression and certainly feels like more than just a straightforward blocks on the floor type of beginner first ever map. I especially like how the build-up to the drop-down feels very epic and shows off the previous checkpoints from up high. The block placement is very good on all levels as a whole, allowing for small jump cuts and a little mini-skip that's built into the map. Not that you're really skipping too much, but there's also a potential to do a surf skip at the end. I wasn't able to hit it, maybe you'll be able to. Though, on stage 2, it would have been nice if all the planks could be crouch jumped to go 2 at a time instead of just some of them. The map gives you plenty of space to just stray away at these massive blocks, and is, for the most part, very fun. But an issue for me was that the last stage seemed a bit out of place, almost like it was meant to be stage 1 or stage 2. Also, the telly from stage 1 to stage 2 is a bit wonky, and I had a hard time finding the right way to hit it consecutively. The map in total took me a little over 2.5 minutes, and everything in mind, this was quite a good first map. So good job to Comeback. I'm going to go ahead and give it a 7 out of 11, and then move right along over to map number 2, bhop_speedrun_space Lego 5, is Lion 2033's second map, and it is a Lego-themed map in space. And the textures are those Lego textures that we've all come to know and love, and color scheme wise, there are tons of bright, vibrant colors that are used to offset the black background nicely, though I do wish there was something more than just a black abyss staring into my soul in terms of the skybox. Adding some stars or planets or even some distant Lego scenery or something probably would have been nice to offset the black. Anyways, there's also these Lego trees and flowers encased in glass, which is a pretty cool effect that adds a little bit of uniquity and some interesting scenery to the map. On stage 2, the colors are a bit more scattered, though everything still works well enough. And the final stage is probably my favorite in terms of colors. Everything seems really simple as you drop down, but once you get up close to the blocks, you start to see all the structured colors that make up the inside patterns of the blocks. But enough about the color scheme, let's get into the gameplay. The map is quite good in terms of block placement and block layout. It's open for the most part and allows for plenty of route optimizations. It even allows you to jump on the encased trees and hit a massive skip on stage 2. Also, the blocks are designed with a second layer that juts out slightly underneath the block, which can be jumped on as well, allowing you to be a little more creative when you're building your route, if you're precise enough, that is. The map has a couple of issues though, one of which being that you can't see the walls on the first stage and can easily bump into the right side wall, or I guess left side from the start. So, that should either be pushed back or be a bit visible or something. My other concern with the map being that it could definitely use a few checkpoints, especially on stage 2, which has some challenging drop-down obstacles if you don't hit the skip, where if you fail once, it's back to the beginning of the stage. And considering there are a few teleports before those challenging obstacles, it probably would have been a good idea to make one of those a checkpoint. But that's probably all there is in terms of issues. So I guess I'll end off by saying that the teleports are good and easy to hit, the map is fun, and has a decently memorable ending, taking me under a minute to beat. So all in all, good map, good job, 8 out of 11, off to the next one. bhop_immense was created by Sven and ported by Kazman522. Bhop Immense is a snowy concrete strafe map with a simple yet effective color scheme. Texture and color-wise, I really like the snowfall and the way that the blocks play off the concrete and the snow. I have no major issues in the texture department other than the skybox being a little bit plain black, though that isn't really too big a deal. The map itself is well structured with interesting layouts that feel different from one another, and each feels like they belong in the map, adding an additional layer of depth and character. The block types are changed up throughout the map, and each block feels like it has a purpose, even though there are so many of them, which really makes route building quite fun since there are so many different optimizations, especially since you can jump on the snow at some points. Unfortunately, there are a few invisible walls on the blue and green stage to stop you from skipping over certain obstacles, though they are somewhat defined by the mini half wall and the beam on the green stage. Nonetheless, if they were glass walls or just regular walls, it would be better. Also, the green stage, there's this weird trigger to stop you from surfing the snow over the wall, I'm assuming. I don't really like that that's there, it just feels wonky when you trigger it. Not all the skips are blocked though. The red stage skip is viable and not blocked, and the tellies are easy, but not too easy to hit. All in all, it's a pretty decent strafe map, and if I were giving 0.5s, it'd have an 8.5, but sadly, you'll have to settle for an 8 out of 11. This map was good, so you get a good job, and then you get left behind as we continue to map number 4, which was bhop_j_first, which was Jupsy's first map. This one is a simple strafe map that uses neon outlines to define the blocks, walls, and platforms of the map. These neon outlines also provide us with the only light that we're going to get in the otherwise pitch black map, so the textures are lacking. But how about that gameplay? Well, the map is incredibly claustrophobic, and I swear sometimes if you don't crouch you'll hit your head on the very low ceiling. The walls are also pretty tight for a strafe map, and that is a thing. So, that said, the block layout is okay for a map that is pretty much just a straight line forward, and there's more than just one stage, so that's cool, I guess. And I guess the block types include beams instead of just plain old square blocks. But at this point, I'm just trying to find positives in a beginner map that took me about 18 seconds to beat and doesn't really have too much going on. So, I wouldn't quite call this one shit tier, but it's walking the line of a 4 out of 11, so good try and better luck next time. Speaking of the next time, Milkman Got Milk has re-uploaded bhop_hoop-to-hoop, but this time with textures that have been compiled so it can be played. And even though this one is technically an update. It was unplayable before, so this counts as a fresh upload in my rabbit hole. Texture-wise, things are fairly simple, with bright colors that are inviting and fun, but I really want to talk about the gameplay on this one, because this map is unlike any bhop map that I've ever played. There are these green windows which give you these crazy speed boosts, and the red windows will reduce your speed, and if you're going too slow, they'll push you straight back. Simple, very unique premise. Each stage has its own set of new obstacles to get through, and honestly I feel like this one will either be a map that you'll love or you'll hate, and I'm certainly leaning closer to the former. This map is incredibly addicting, allowing for tons of fast-paced action that lets you get right back into the action after you fail. Needless to say, this map is very unique and memorable, though I do have a few issues with it. One being that the entire map plays out as a straight line that's just tightly compact. I think I'd love the chance to be able to take this premise and then use it to explore a much more open or winding map with a bunch of crazy ziggity-zag paths. The second issue being that the rings have undefined invisible walls that can be passed under and over, though it's not clear where. So those points should either be closed up or defined in some way so that skipping the rings can be replicatable, as opposed to just being a guessing game of whether or not you're going to hit the invis wall. So, to sum it all up, this was an innovative and exciting map that allows you to go very fast, and I liked it a lot. I'm going to go ahead and give it a 9.5? Nope, out of 11. 9 out of 11. Oh yeah, and the map took me a little over 30 seconds to beat. So, it's time to move along to the final map, which was bhop_Xerxes, created by Xerxes, and this one is pretty simple, pretty basic. It's his first map ever, and getting into the textures, there's not too much to like or dislike, really. The textures are just kind of there. The trees are some decent scenery, though the lighting is kind of an issue, because a lot of the map feels really dark, even to the point where sometimes you can't really see the block, which is kind of an issue. Didn't really like that, but moving along to the gameplay, it's a standard strafe map, pretty straight-liney, though there is a bend and then a turn backwards, but it's basically two hallways connected by a side hallway. The block layout is good. That's probably the best thing about the map. It gives you plenty of room to strafe around and hit the route that you want to hit, but it's a short map. Overall, it felt a little bit lacking, but it is his first map, and it's not bad. It's just not good. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one a 6 out of 11. It took me about 22 seconds to beat, and since we were talking about 9/11 earlier, this week's review has once again been reduced to a smoldering pile of rubble, and if you like this video, then make sure to give it a like, comment, and subscribe for more of me. Follow me on Twitter at TeamActigoon, or on my other channel where I talk about stuff and play games. All the links and information are in the description, and if you want to throw some change into the slot machine that is my life, then go ahead and donate to my PayPal. Link is also in the description, and it might not be too late to send in those runs for the first ever bhop talk show, so send those in as soon as possible if you'd like to have your run featured on that. But that is all the time that I have for this week's episode, so I'll see you in the next one. Double ending surprise!